Hello, everyone, and welcome back to CHH Hysteria. I'm your host, Cole.
And I'm your co-host, Cooper.
And I'm the third co-host, Ryan.
For those of you that have been following our socials for a while, you should be familiar with Ryan. He's been doing our content creation on there since like May, so it's been like 4 or 5 months. And he hasn't been on the show yet, but you should expect to see him on more from now on. So that's super exciting. So today we're going to be talking about what literally everybody is talking about for obvious reasons, which is New Hollywood. And we want to cover a little bit of what we expect and what we hope to see in New Hollywood. But before we get into that part, we kind of want to talk a little bit about the history behind New Hollywood, because some people I know have recently got into CHH since like this. We've been waiting for this album longer than some people have been fans of the genre because it's been so long. So like way back in the day before the world was set on fire in 2019, WHATUPRG released an EP called Raul, which is absolutely fantastic. And then shortly after that, he announced three projects. He announced New Hollywood, he announced Birds, or Two Birds, One Stone, whatever you call it, which was going to be a collab project with 1K Few. And he also announced an untitled Spanish project. And then at some point after that, I can't remember when, it was either later 2019, I believe. He got his laptop stolen, which he lost all of his files for those projects, or presumably all his files. So the lesson from that story is, if you're an artist, back up your files, because that does not sound pleasant. I would hate to have that happen.
Not at all.
Yeah, we don't know how much, if any, has been recovered from these sessions. There is a possibility that some of it was backed up, or maybe it's some on a different computer. So some of that version of New Hollywood might exist, but we can kind of assume that a lot of it was lost, because it did dampen when New Hollywood would come out, and like Birds, and because I know they were able to recover the two songs that came out. What's it called? Dripply and Okay, and that's why those two came out and the others didn't. But we don't know much about the New Hollywood one. But anyways, there's always a lot of like, when's it coming out, and like people would be like, it's coming out this like Q1 2021 or whatever, like spring of this year, whatever. We kind of got like people saying that here or there. And then eventually RG himself tweeted out that on September 25 he would be dropping New Hollywood. But then after that, he didn't promote anything. He didn't say anything. And then the date passed. It didn't drop, obviously. And pretty much no one's surprised. Like everyone was like, "Oh, it's actually happening," but it didn't really feel like it was happening. It was just kind of a weird time. We ended up getting KB's album that day, so it was okay. Fast forward a while, like I want to say March or April, I can't remember when, he dropped Kids, which was the lead single to New Hollywood. Well, kind of the new single, lead single, because he dropped Praise in like November of 2021, which only on SoundCloud though, which just recently dropped on Spotify, and that had a whole, like, it was censored, and then Jay Monty's verse was replaced. So I kind of had like a little controversy, you could say. Not really controversy, but like it's been something people's been talking about.
Yeah.
But the lead single, what was like marketed as the lead single, was Kids. And a lot of people kind of thought that after Kids dropped, it would be coming shortly after. And we're not really sure why it didn't. It could have been many reasons. Maybe it was never planned. It could have been that was just for the tour itself. But anyways, obviously it didn't drop. And then like last week, I want to say, so not long ago, he officially announced it. He put out a release date, a pre-order, so like it's as official as it can be. There's no track list yet, but you might not even announce a track list until it comes out, which would be kind of cool. I feel like that'd be cool. But we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, so we finally have a day, which is September 30. We also know that there's been a lot of different versions of this project, because Michael has said on like Discord before that he's heard at least 6 different versions, and we don't know how different those versions are. Whether like it's just a different track listing, like different order, and maybe like a different song here or there, or maybe like we know RG in the past has like experimented with different verses and stuff. Like Jerry Mana said he didn't know he was going to be on Raul until it came out, because he's kind of like, he had so many different versions of Free or something. It's been a while since he said that, obviously, so I could be a little wrong on the exacts, but I do know that he wasn't sure if he was actually going to make the project. So it could have been something like that, or we don't know what the differences are between, but that there's just a lot of different versions. But for the theme, for the final thing about like what we know about it, which is obviously like the messaging and the theme, there's not like a lot that we know about it, but we know that the intro to Kids, like when he performs live, is it says something along the lines of "Welcome to New Hollywood, where you don't have to pretend," and then obviously like Kids is all about like you don't have to pretend no more, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it has something to do with acting or like pretending and not needing to do that anymore. Probably something to do with authentic. I can't say the word, but like him being
Authenticity.
real or like you being real. Yeah, we'll see what it means. But yeah, so that was a lot of information. But that's just kind of like what we know about New Hollywood so far. And it's been a really long time coming. It's been almost 4 years since he's first announced these projects. We also we're not really sure though if New Hall like how much it's changed since it was first announced. No idea. It'd be so exciting to see. But yeah, let's get into like the beef of things. I'm curious what you guys are kind of expecting from New Hollywood. It's kind of a broad question, but it can be
Yeah.
about anything. Like it can be about the features, it can be about the sound, the message, like the impact. Like what are you guys kind of expecting? Like in your first listen, what are you looking for or what are you expecting to hear?
A completely different experience is what I could say, which I feel like RG could easily bring. I'm curious to see, though, how it is lining up to be an album because, like in Apple Music, it's labeled as Christian, and other
Mhm.
albums for Christian hip hop is labeled as that. So I'm curious to see how his marketing and his creativity makes it just a regular Christian album and not like hip hop per se.
Yeah, so something interesting about that actually is while they were on tour, he tweeted out that New Hollywood isn't a Christian hip hop album. It isn't a hip hop album. It's a
Mm-hmm.
Christian album. And then
Yeah.
Cooper and I were lucky enough to go to one of the shows and we got the VIP thing. So we were able to ask like an artist a question. I asked RG, what did he mean by that? Like, what does that tweet mean? And he told us that like he wants to push what it means to make Christian music. So like, and he specifically called out um, song structure, which I think was interesting because he was like
Oh.
talking about how he wants to push it. And we've seen that with Raul. Because if you look at Raul, that EP, there's only one song that has a normal structure, which is Niyaki. Every other song doesn't follow the verse, chorus, outro sort of thing. He has like a verse, bridge, verse, or verse, then verse, like instrumental break, chorus. It's like he really played around with that. So I think that is an interesting. Like I'm curious to see what he means by like that too, and maybe we could get. Maybe it's not all going to be like hip hop either. It could we could maybe get some sort of other genre in there too, which would be interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
especially after following a project like Raul, just seeing like how New Hollywood could end up, because RG is very creative when it comes to creating his music and all that, and seeing or hearing that from you, because I didn't know about that that concert experience because Reach canceled before they came to my area,
yeah.
which sucks.
This was the
So
first tour, so that was
yeah,
unfortunate.
that West Coast tour was canceled right before it started, so I couldn't see none of it. But I'm curious to see, like, especially because he's trying to redefine what Christian music means or just music in general, and then the "We Don't Pretend No More." Just both of those clashing together, I'm sure it'll be a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I agree. Like now you say like the how that theme and his idea of that. I didn't even think about how that might connect, but like I agree that would be really interesting and kind of expanding off like what it like redefining what it means to make Christian music. Um, this this is a little less likely because he didn't say this, but like it'd be really interesting to see him play around with different time signatures and key switches because I feel like you don't get that much in hip hop. Like almost every song is like 4/4, right? Or like I think that'd be really interesting to see like RG try to do something like Spaceship by Kanye, which is a 3/4, or like some sort of key switch, which is I don't I don't know. That's a little bit maybe more on the nerdy side, but I think that would be interesting, and I don't really expect that per se, but it would be a happy surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
Cooper, what things are you kind of expecting from New Hollywood then? Because Ryan said he's
Yeah.
expecting like a whole new experience. I totally agree. What do you think though?
I feel like RG. If anyone on like Reach or even in CHH, I feel like were to pull off like a key switch or something
Yeah.
like that, I feel like it would be RG. I feel like he'd be the one to push those. But like in terms of my expectations, I have pretty high expectations for it. I mean, we've been waiting for this long. I feel like
Cooper wasn't an RG fan when it was announced.
Yeah.
He's since came and seen the lights. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, just I expect something not only like really well made, but like him to play around the song structure sounds super interesting, and I really hope he does because I loved Raul. Wow, Raul. I can't speak, but I love the way he played around with that, and I feel like he'll push genres as well, like kind of going back to that, like redefining what it means to make Christian music, like. I feel like he'll push those boundaries, and then like in terms of genre, like in what we expect in CHH, I feel like he'll throw some like like not necessarily random, but like he'll make something really really different with the genre itself. Like maybe he'll throw like an R&B song in there or something like that. You know, like push those kind of boundaries. Or like I almost wonder if it'll be like kind of like Ralu was.
I expect to see some reggaeton.
Yeah, reggaeton. Like kind of a mix of that too. And there,
got to get Tommy Royale on there.
Yeah, I honestly would be surprised if there's not more than one Spanish song featuring other Spanish artists.
Yeah.
Like Tommy, or maybe even get someone like bigger, like Funky,
or
whatever. But that'd be interesting. What else were you saying?
I also feel like the feature list. I feel like it'll either be a ton or like it'll be a super star-studded cast, like kind of like you know, kind of what we saw with like DJ Khaled and stuff like that. Like obviously not on that scale, but like
I mean, if you look at the feature list from Praise alone, he's got like 9 artists on there.
Exactly. Well, yeah. So he might actually.
He's already got the stars. But yeah.
So like, I feel like we'll either see a super duper star-studded cast with like only a couple songs with RG alone, or maybe only like 1 to 2 really impactful features. Like I mean, I'm not saying that like you can't have a super impactful feature if you have a ton, but
right,
if you have less, they're gonna be, you know, they're more likely to be more impactful on the album.
Yeah, and if you're looking back at his past projects, he doesn't do many features.
No.
So I'm curious on an album, because we've only seen him on EPs, which he has like less room.
Yeah.
If he's gonna have more features, and he did have features on Raul, but they were in a different way, like not very many verses. You know, he had Wande on the outro freeze. He had Lecrae and 1K do like a very small little bridge part.
Yeah.
And then he had like Jerry Mana on a bridge on Free. But something about I want to ask you guys about the features actually is I hope no matter how many features there are, is that when the album first comes out, they are hidden. There's no features listed. Because I feel like for me, like the first time listening to an album is just like such a cool experience, and like that like really adds and to like how much I like an album at first.
Definitely.
And something I really appreciate about this rollout so far is he hasn't been dropping a bunch of singles.
Yeah.
Because like and I think RG has said in the past he's not huge on album singles. I don't know if that's still a thing or if I'm just wrong on that, because this was back like when Pleasant Hill was new.
Yeah.
So that's been 4 years. 5 years, 4 years, a long time. I don't remember when. It was like 2018, 2017. We don't know much going into the album, and it would be really cool if like there's no features listed. It's like on track 2, all of a sudden you hear like 350 come in, and you're like, you know, like you didn't expect it because there wasn't a featuring 350 part. It just makes like that part is like, you know, like if you look at like Donda or the Off Season or even Raul. Like RG's done before, like the first time you listen to Swish and all of a sudden you hear Lecrae and you're like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Like I didn't forget that, and that just adds so much to the song, like that, like holy crap, you know what I mean? Like oh my gosh, that's Lecrae. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think the feature is going to be listed?
I feel like the features will be listed. I feel like it'd be weird not to have them listed, just because it is still a niche community of or just music. So I feel like people wouldn't feel like they're getting enough credit if they're not having like their name on the song. I feel like it would also just be more beneficial. I feel like it would be cool not to have like the artist, because I know majority of people, but I feel like people would feel kind of left out not having their name on the track.
That's true. New Hollywood is probably going to be one of the biggest drops, and RG is more considered mainstream. And like, for example, we do know that 350 is going to be on the album, and 350 is not really considered mainstream. So someone that's coming in that just listens to Reach Records artists, they're going to hear, like, let's say Melatonin's on the album, they're going to hear 350's verse, and they're not going to know who that is. I didn't even think about that. It's like a little less beneficial to the artist, although it is cooler, but like for like the listen. But I do see your point on like that would be more beneficial to the artist if it was listed. I'd be curious to see what it is. But Ryan, what do you think? Because Cooper talked a little bit about like how he sees the features. He thinks it's either going to be super star filled or there's only going to be like one or two. What do you think? What do you expect to see feature wise?
I don't know. I'm kind of split in between because of seeing praise and having so many artists on that song. I feel like it's just kind of all jam packed in there. So it might not make the album filled with features. So it's like a trade off. Because like you were saying, he doesn't really have much features on any of his projects. So I don't know if Reach or him in general will make him get features. So I don't know. I would hope that majority of the stuff is just RG because I love his music and I would just want to hear from him.
Right.
So I'm just hoping that there's some sort of balance. So there are some songs that have a feature on it that would be more beneficial to the album.
Yeah, I could really see the features playing a big part in the theming because like We Don't Pretend No More. It's not just RG or like I'm Not Pretending No More. It's like his crew doesn't pretend no more. And like I kind of expect for features, I don't know how many we're going to have, but I do expect less big name features and more just his friends. So I expect to see something kind of like Praise. You didn't have Lecrae or Andy on it. I do expect like one big Reach artist to be on it. Like I'm either Lecrae or Andy's kind of my guess, maybe Trip. I kind of expect one, but that's about like it. I feel like everyone else is going to be more his friends and hopefully Kanye. But I don't think that's going to happen. But ever since the crew has said that Kanye is going to be on a CHH album, my first thought was, I hope it's New Hollywood. That'd be so cool. But I have no expectations
Church
for
Close 4 November.
Right. I mean, I feel like those are like the two most obvious choices. But that's a different subject.
Well, yeah. So, like for the features, like what you were talking about, it's kind of odd thinking about like who could be on it. I do feel like RG is more inclined to be with his friends. So that's why I'm like, it's going to be smaller artists. But when you talk about like a Reach artist, it's going to be 1K Few and Ty Brazel on a track.
You obviously can get 1K Few and Ty on a song, right? There's no way there's not.
You have to. But it's like the We Don't Pretend No More type of deal. And then having so many artists on Praise that are not distancing themselves from CHH, but just saying, I make music for everybody. Like Caleb Mitchell and Aha.
Foggy,
and Foggy Raw. It's just like, it's a Christian it's labeled as a Christian album, but then the features on it aren't like saying I make Christian hip hop. So it's just
because it's not a Christian hip hop album. It's just Christian.
It's not a Christian hip hop album.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's just interesting to think about how it'll all play out, especially when you get features like that who are becoming more and more distant from Christian hip hop being on a Reach album.
I think Praise is interesting because you have some of those guys, but then you also have some people that are like staples of Christian hip hop, like you, right? That is like,
and like Jay Monty
rap is
or
back.
Not anymore.
Well, yeah, not Jay Monty anymore, but or Dill. Even Dilly. I feel like Dilly does like he carries that label a little bit more, or I think Ty Brazel still carries that label more so than stuff like Foggy. So like there's a balance there. And I think it's just because it's just a Christian album, you know what I mean? Plus, those are just his friends, and we're like, we're going to make a song together for my birthday, and then that's what they did, and then it ended up on the album. It's pretty much what happened, you know what I mean? Crazy to think that song was made in only 24 hours. To think about how good that song is, and how good the album that he's been working on for 4 years is going to be. I'm just so excited. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit. For one of the final things to talk about is this is going to be probably one of the more controversial parts of the video, but how do you think the public, like general CHH public, is going to take New Hollywood when it drops? Like, how do you think it's going to be perceived when it first drops?
Well, if it's anything like how people were in the comment section of our post talking about the censoring, I feel like it's it's always going to be up in arms about the content of his messages, and is this really a Christian album? So I feel like
you're gonna get that no matter what, no matter how.
Yeah, you're going to get that no matter what. So it's going to be interesting to see how he takes this on and what people are going to try to talk about when he says whatever. Well, I mean, whatever he says in the music.
Yeah, I think I agree with that 100%. I do think that he's probably going to say something that might cause a little bit of controversial, and that's not even bad because like the song 4 a.m. when it first came out, I remember some people were mad at that song. I was like, really? You know what I mean? So like it's just kind of like that's kind of like the truth of being on like a big CHH artist. It seems to always happen. But like aside from that, I think it's gonna be really interesting to see because I'm willing to argue that this is probably the most look forward to CHH album ever.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
I think the genre has grown a lot. I think All Things Were Together is up there because I think that was looked together. And, Church Goes 4 might be 2 at some point. But I feel like
Neverland 2 as well.
Yes, that's true too. Yeah, Neverland 2 is one of the like the genre's just grown a lot in the past 10 years, and we've been starting to get more big releases. I don't think we've had like an album that's had so many ups and downs as far as like the production goes, like publicly. And I think through that time, people have had made these expectations of what they expect the album to be, and if it's not this, I'm going to be disappointed, right? So like I've seen people be like, if it's not album of the year, it's a disappointment. I've even like seen more like extreme cases where they almost have this need for it to be the best CHH album ever.
Yeah,
it's hard because if it doesn't meet this like almost this standard that's like impossible for no matter how good an album is, at some point you can have these expectations so high that no matter how good it is, it will never reach that, right? And I think it'll be interesting to see how many people have that expectation. So I almost feel like at first there's going to be some people that are going to be disappointed, and that will eventually come around to the album. Because I know I've in the past have like built like an expectation for an album to be like it has to be like this or be like All Things Were Together 2.0. I didn't expect that for Restoration, but like that's just an example. And if it's not that, I might be disappointed. So I'm curious to see how people's just for how long awaited and how hyped up this album will be, how people perceive it at first. I do think that it's more than likely, I can't see it not being a really good album. And if it's a really good album, people will probably eventually come around to it for sure.
Yeah.
And also, if he really does push music, whenever they do push like a specific genre or style of music, it's almost always perceived not as good at first.
Yeah.
Or it's more controversial. There's usually a subsect of people that are like, wow, this is amazing. But then like some of the general public is more like on it because like it's different from what they've heard. So I'm really curious to see how the public will perceive it. I'm really excited for it. And I hope it's perceived super well. And I think that our community is small enough that it probably will be relatively well. But I guess we'll see. What do you think?
I feel like kind of like you said, like I feel like if RG does really push these the limits of the genre and push those boundaries, I feel like a lot of people like can hate it at first or be like, oh,
because it's different.
Yeah. Like it's not their comfort album. It's not it's not ATWT 2.0. It's not Restored 2.0. It's not whatever. It's not Anomaly 2.0. Like I feel like a lot of people are just gonna be like, this is too different for me, and then like back to it a month later and they'll be like, this is pretty darn good, and then it'll just grow on them. I feel like
they're gonna be like, there's no hit on this album.
Yeah, I feel like the greatest albums always end up being growers rather than really high at first, and then like in terms of interest level.
Yeah, that too. I agree. Or it's going to be perceived really well.
Yeah.
And then over time, it's still going to be it's going to be perceived even better.
Yeah,
like To Pimp a Butterfly when it first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
it's like.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like what you were saying with a hit album, like or a hit song. Every song's got to be super fast, reach records, playlist, like the summer playlist. Everything's a good vibe and super hype. It's like you can't have a good album like that if it's just one continuous hype song or there's no change in between each track.
No, I agree 100%. I think, yeah, and I'm really excited because we never seen RG on an album before, and like just from EPs, like they've been so well put together.
Yeah.
Like both Raul and Pleasant Hill tell such a great cohesive
Hmm.
story, and each song serves up a great purpose, which is why I saw people were kind of upset by the track list length that is only 45 minutes, um, because like we've been waiting so long. But like I would rather, and 45 minutes is actually relatively long in the streaming age, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Um it's either like super short or super long. You either have like 10 tracks or you have like freaking 80.
Yeah.
Um but that's how it is now. But anyways, I think there's a lot of good songs that RG made are not going to be on the album because I think the album, every song is going to be really important and fit well sonically and thematically.
Yeah.
And I don't think every song he's made in the past 4 years is going to fit that. So we might see some singles from New Hollywood drop like that just didn't fit on the album for that
Yeah.
reason. But like I'd rather have 45 minutes of every song is important and is really good rather than have an
Yeah.
hour and 15 minutes of it feel like, oh, why was this on the album?
Yeah.
Like it's not a bad song. It's just why is this on the album? Like I'm kind of expecting more like cohesiveness, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I kind of forgot how I got
Yeah.
there. Anyways, yeah. What else do you guys have to say about New Hollywood, or are you good to wrap up?
Basically, I want to say if there are any finished songs that are not on New Hollywood, we need another Andy Mineo type work in progress album where it's just the
Days
scrap
before New
songs.
Hollywood.
Yeah, we just need a work in progress for New Hollywood because we've been waiting. We
I,
need them songs.
I agree. That'd be really cool. Like after New Hollywood, we get like an EP or even like a full length mixtape of songs that were good enough to be released, but not fit on the album. But yeah, Coop, what are your closing thoughts?
I think this album is gonna.
Oh yes.
I think the album is gonna like push some boundaries, and I hope it's perceived well, and I hope it like continues to grow on people, and it just overall it makes a really good impact on the scene and pushes boundaries that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. I think this is a really big moment for CHH as like a whole genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this is probably the most anticipated album in our genre's history, and it's a debut album.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how this works out. I'm really excited to listen. I've been waiting forever. RG, even though he only has like 16 songs, I mean more than that, but only like many. He's already one of my favorite CHH artists. Um, so I'm just excited to get 16 new songs or 14 new songs because we have two of them. Um, yeah, I'm just really excited for September 30. It cannot come soon enough. I am so glad he didn't announce it and it was in freaking February
Yeah.
and he's dropping sing. I'm glad he announced it. And like
Mm-hmm.
it's been so cool because there's no album cover, there's no tracks, there's like track list. It's been a great rollout so far. I'm excited to see how the rollout builds. And September 29 at 11 p.m. Central Time is going to be a moment for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys think in the comments. What you guys expect from New Hollywood, what features you guys want to see, what type of songs you want to see, just what you think it's going to be like, and everything like that. And until next time.